I would also now like to talk about the fact that I ended up in a little altercation with a rapper on the internet this weekend.
Who?
Lil Xan.
Oh, I seen that.
More white on white crime.
He's Mexican, but
Are you sure? Because you call Boule Mexican.
No, he is Mexican.
all right. Oh, Yuri's gonna leave, so
I'll
he's
use
gonna
the
miss
Bahama.
out
Your
on
Mexican
some points.
meter is terrible.
This is true.
Wait,
Meet up.
I'll be back.
My dad, I just found out my dad's a fucking crackhead. The best video ever.
So I hop on my Instagram story this weekend because we did the news on, I think, Thursday, where we talked about Lil Xan. Basically, Lil Xan decided that because he's going through issues with his fucking his former manager, Stat Quo, that he decided that he wanted to basically try to gain some leverage in this whole battle for the G-Wagon that Stat Quo is refusing to turn over to Lil Xan because Lil Xan owes him like 30 grand or whatever. So Stat Quo's not trying to hand it over unless he's got the money in hand. So Lil Xan's pissed off. So what's he do? He decides, I'm going to go on my Instagram story. I'm going to blame my drug addiction on Stat Quo, which is just, it's total bullshit. It's completely disingenuous. And when we did the news, I was kind of capping because I wasn't like fully like saying what I thought of the situation, which what I think of the situation is that it's complete garbage. But then I went on
wait. Which part do you think is garbage? You think like Stat supplying the drugs is not true, or you think that
Bro, his name is Lil Xan.
I asked Stat
His
Quo.
name is Lil Xan.
I asked Stat Quo. I said, did you ever get him drugs? He said no.
He said
so
no.
I will take his word for that. But that being said, we can also imagine the extreme other side. Let's say that Lil Xan was getting drugs from Stat Quo like all the time while they were on tour, which, to be honest, they weren't on tour that much. It was like a couple weeks total. Like Lil Xan was saying, like we were on the Nicki and Juice World tour, whatever.
If my name was Lil
a week.
Fentanyl,
It was a week.
if I name myself
that was
Lil Fentanyl,
that was a week? You looked up dates?
No, I know because I remember when they went on that tour.
It was a week?
And I remember that he was supposed to be on the whole tour, and then he was only on it for like a week because he was tweaking out. They could never get Xan to do the shit that he actually had to do for his career. Like I remember talking to Stat about it, and he was constantly frustrated. The thing about Stat is Stat doesn't do drugs. Stat definitely doesn't do pills. He doesn't smoke weed. He doesn't do anything. He's a boring guy who likes to stay to himself. And like this is the thing that I keep thinking about when I think about how insane it is that Lil Xan actually thought that anybody was going to buy this. So you're saying that you've been addicted to drugs since you were like, 13, 14, whatever, like early in like junior high. And somehow the couple of weeks of your life in which you were on tour, you're saying that your manager helped you to get drugs. So you were able to get drugs every other week, every other year of your entire life before he was managing you and after he was managing you. But somehow those weeks that you were on tour, he was completely incapable of getting drugs, and he needed to rely on his manager who doesn't even do drugs to get him drugs. Does this make sense to anybody? No. In reality, you're a grown-up, and if you were getting drugs on tour, realistically, you were probably getting the drugs yourself because it wouldn't be hard for somebody who's addicted to drugs to get drugs. Not to mention, you could just bring. I mean, how hard is it for you to get on an airplane with like 50 fucking Xans in your backpack? It's not hard. Trust
Probably
me.
not that hard.
Everybody's done it.
Don't
It's
try
not
it,
difficult.
kids.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
try it, but like
Maybe don't do it. But realistically, it's like I remember Smoke Perp got caught with like 200 fucking Percocets or some shit on the plane one time. But that's the rare exception because if you got a bottle of Advil in your backpack, to the fucking X-ray machine, it looks exactly like a bottle of Percocets. It's the same shit. So I mean,
Tips and tricks.
Just the fact that Lil Xan decided to use this drug accusation against Stat, it just sickened me so much that I just had to say something. And then Xan goes on his story and is basically saying that, oh, Adam's just saying this because he's cool with Stat or whatever. Well, actually, I just really feel like Stat is a more trustable, legitimate source of information about this topic as a sober person who like let's say worst case scenario. Worst case scenario means that like out of Lil Xan's entire life, there was like a couple of times where Stat might have helped him get drugs so that he could fulfill his obligation and actually go on stage and perform. Maybe that is true. Stat denies that, but maybe that's the case. You really think that we're supposed to feel bad for you, Lil Xan? Be serious.
Is that enough to blame him for your entire drug addiction that you probably had before?
At most, let's say a couple times he helped you get drugs. Which I don't even really believe that, but let's say that hypothetically that was true.
If you name yourself a fucking drug like that,
you really can't get past that.
You can't get past. No, bro. Like, how do you feel like about the whole SoundCloud era? Because I feel like it's just more and more of them guys just going down the fucking drain.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Look at this J-Stash shit. You know, fucking.
Oh yeah.
Just like it's getting to that point where we're seeing these artists who either made it or didn't make it, and the ramifications of
doing that stuff at a young
real
age.
life, too.
you know, like peaking when they're 18, 19,
Yeah.
not knowing how to fucking to handle life past 23.
And is it just me or did Lil Xan seem like fucked up in that first video he posted?
He says he's sober now. I mean,
Nah, he definitely looked a lot better.
The way he was like slurring his words and stuff.
He put some weight
He
on
didn't
him.
really seem like he was slurring his words at all.
are you fucking kidding me?
I've seen
Clearly,
him slur his
you
words.
must have been watching a different video.
I'm talking about the one where he was wearing the flannel, sitting in the living room, like talking to his mom or something.
No, the one he's calling the first video where he calls out Stat.
Yeah. He didn't seem like he was on anything.
I've seen other videos of him. He lost his voice. He just seems so fucked up. And it's like, bro, at a certain point, you just have to accept that like your problems are your own, and that you can't just run around playing the fucking victim. And I just felt like I had to say something at a certain point because this is just really out of hand, dude.
But see, that's what a lot of that's the problem is that these kids, because they are kids when they start getting fame.
I don't like the kids thing.
Listen to what I'm saying. These kids, right, when they start getting a little bit of fame, they got everybody kissing their ass all day and telling them that they ain't doing nothing wrong. And when they fucking fall off and when shit ain't going their way now, the world is telling them what it really is, and they can't accept that and handle that.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to handle their real problems in the real world.
I feel like in certain perspectives, like an 18, 19-year-old person can
18, you're still a kid.
Can be still considered, especially in business relationships
I'm not
and
talking
drug
about that.
shit.
I'm
It's like
talking
you're
about this
definitely still a
nigga's
kid.
this nigga's like 25 now, bro.
No, now, but I'm saying his whole career, probably everybody been telling him everything you doing is cool. So he's taking drugs, he's getting fucked up. Like, you know, niggas, it's a lot of yes men in this fucking industry.
Exactly.
And when them yes men are gone and people really tell you how they feel about you and how you really are, half of these motherfuckers won't know how to handle that situation.
Imagine this. Imagine if House Phone's had his struggles with drugs. Imagine if one day me and House Phone fell out and House Phone said, well, back in the day, Adam helped me get coke.
And you're just like,
okay,
yeah,
like what the fuck? How is that damning at all? Like, it seems weird when there's like a huge difference in age, which is basically like what Lil Xan is trying to like abuse here to make Stat look bad.
That's not the same because like me and you were doing we're doing it together. But.
So you can look at Stat and be like, oh, he's irresponsible because he may or may not have like helped you get drugs at some point. Okay, but I mean, does it really matter? It's just
I do believe though that there are probably people like, you know, supplying that to keep their artists under control, but I don't think Stat did that.
It's like always, like when the money's flowing in, there's no complaints. You know what I mean? Like when everything's fine and dandy, there's no complaints. And then like now that like you can tell that no one's really listened to a Lil Xan song in a minute. Now he's like, yo, these dudes were mean to me.
That's
you know,
the point.
blah blah.
Reality has hit Lil Xan now. You feel me? The money probably not coming in the same way.
It seemed like he was back at like his mom's house or some shit.
That's
like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Stat's been paying Xan's mom's rent since the beginning of his career. Like he's the reason why Xan's family isn't completely fucked.
Fuck.
How do you think he probably is doing financially? Like, you think like he still got money left over? You think he probably ran through it already?
Never had. Because Stat's trying to get 30 grand out of him to finish up the balance on the fucking
on the
G-Wagon. And he don't got 30 grand for it. That's like the whole thing with all this.
And that's the problem that people, bro, they idolize these people for a short period of time and people move on like this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just, it sucks to see someone where all of a sudden you can't even take them seriously at all because this shit he's saying about Stat is a joke. And I mean, I had to keep it real about that. And you know, he's upset about the fact that I said it, bro. It's a reality check. Like you've seen so many people speak out about this and how ridiculous it is. You got Royce the 5'9" commentating on Lil Xan for some reason, just to like
what do you call him, Martha Stewart?
He said this is the first male Karen in hip hop. Because, I mean, that is kind of what is going on, is he's just blaming his shit on someone who realistically... Like, I remember when Lil Xan's album came out, right? And I remember having a conversation with Stat and being like, what do you think of the album? Because it was pretty obvious that the album was bad and that the production, or that he didn't put any effort into it. And I know Stat, and I know Stat, when it comes to music, he's a workaholic. Like, he wants his artists to be really in the studio working on the product. He's a sober, clean-minded businessman. You know, he wants his fucking artists to go hard in the studio. And I mean, Xan didn't. Xan put in like no work for the album. And I remember having that conversation with him. And if it was up to Stat, Xan would have been sitting in the studio recording every fucking night. And instead, he was just doing drugs and having random ass girls come over every night. So I mean,
Random fans.
yeah, I remember that. I remember like looking at my DMs and having random fangirls be like, "Hey, I know you know Diego. I'm standing outside of his apartment in downtown right now. He's not picking up. Like, can you tell him to come get me?" I'm like,
why the
what the fuck involvement do you think I have in this dude's life?
Yo, go pick up this girl outside your apartment.
Yo, people, that shit makes no sense to me, bro. Bananas.
Yeah, there's a lot of like just that type of shit right now on the internet. It's like where people, they don't want to take accountability. They want to they want that class. I'm not saying that that's what Lil Xan wants, but it's like you know things that are gonna get clicked on, and sometimes you'll do it. You don't even out of emotion.
Okay.
Yeah, he just wanted to draw some attention to the fucking whole situation.
Yeah. Okay. Look. So he may not have like caused his drug addiction, but it's like it's definitely not the best thing to be supplying your artist with drugs.
I don't believe that he did that. Xan has yet to present any proof that he did that. And if he did do that, then it's like they weren't on tour together that much. That's like my number one thing about it. And it's like it would have been a couple times at most.
And if you know Stat, that nigga, like you said, he don't do shit.
If he was getting Lil Xan drugs, like if he got Lil Xan Xanax, I guarantee was like life or death situation where like Xan was not going to be able to stay on the road if he didn't have drugs. There's
that's kind of how Xan was kind of breaking it down.
The picture that he was trying to paint, like the idea that Stat like wanted to keep him fucked up. No, you were getting way too fucked up. He was fighting to keep you even close to sober. Be serious. That's the last thing I gotta say.
Like people in the rooms and they were like, "Take your pills this morning."
In my experience of doing drugs, it's usually like as a person who wanted drugs, you usually going around the room going, "Hey, you know a person who sells this? Oh no, okay. Oh, you know a person who sells this? All right, sweet. Like, take me to that person." Like, are you gonna go blame every person you ask to help you get a connect? You know what I mean? Like,
it's all your guys' fault.
Yeah, you guys linked me.
But
like,
people see shit like they see the dude who sold Mac Miller the bad pills that killed him, and they see that guy going to prison. They're like, "Oh, I didn't die, but I can still blame this random person who sold me drugs or some shit." It's like, bro.
That was a different situation with the Mac Miller.
Yeah, and I mean the fentanyl shit. I feel you, but I mean still, it's just total bullshit.
The fact that you're saying he potentially doesn't even have this 30 grand when he had who knows how much money at one
that's
point.
A reality
I
for
will cut my arm off if Lil Xan has $30,000.
Bro, the problem is these artists.
What about 20?
They sign these shitty ass fucking deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get these big ass advances. Right? They run through them big ass advances.
He didn't even have control of his own money back then.
They get these big ass advances, right? They owe the label so much fucking money. They drop a project that does jack shit. The label fucking shelves them.
I wonder how much he sold first week.
I think it was like 28,000, but this was still in the days of the merch bundle and all that shit.
Any of the SoundCloud era rappers, like which one of them sold the most to where a label will be happy with it?
We don't need to have that conversation again. Yeah, there's obviously plenty of SoundCloud rappers who are super successful, but yeah, I mean, Lil Xan obviously his career didn't go the way that they wanted it to go at all. I remember after he got the G-Wagon, right? There was
he like keyed it or something?
No, he did a event where he did a pop-up in his hometown. You remember what city he's from?
Redlands.
He did it like a pizza place.
I only know that because I was fucking some girl.
He put it on his Instagram story like, "Everybody pull up to the fucking pizza spot." Like 1,000 kids show up because this is at the height of his popularity. 1,000 kids come. The fucking helicopters need to come out. All the fucking different cops have to come out because there's way too many people. It totally takes over this downtown area. They send him a bill for 100 racks. Because it's not cheap to send a bunch of fucking helicopters out.
Yeah.
And then I remember having a conversation with him after that. He's like, "Damn, bro, like, no, it's gonna take me so much longer to pay this G-Wagon off." So I mean, like, that right there, it's like, you know, the opportunity for Lil Xan to make a lot of money was very brief, and
short window.
He completely fucked up the opportunity.
And if you got a shitty deal and you don't deliver what they expect, you're gonna be in the same fucking position.
He could still make a living though. Like I feel like if Lil Xan
Doing
were to
what,
hop,
Yuri?
Doing what?
I was gonna
Doing
say
what?
if he were to hop on Twitch or YouTube, he has enough people that would tune in and donate to help support.
I
At
believe-
least pay
no.
his rent.
I believe anybody could survive if they do that, but
Yeah, that's dark.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
And also, like, you have to go like really hard and like be really consistent on those platforms
Yeah.
to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Has Lil Xan done anything in his career up to this point that has made you think that he has that kind of work ethic where he would actually be able to consistently do something?
That's what I thought of immediately.
Especially like Twitch or something. Some people can't sit in the house, nigga. And, you feel
Yeah.
me?
And the whole thing was like, I remember people loving witnessing the Lil Xan show, even when it seemed like things weren't going well for him. You know, when
He was on every blog.
person hollered at him outside the fucking McDonald's, getting mad at him about the Tupac thing, all these different things. You know, he pulled the gun out on somebody. Remember all that shit? But then when I
How
know
did nothing happen to him for
but
that?
people loved it. He had a case for a minute or something, but
That shit was
people
funny,
loved it. But then when I noticed that they stopped giving a fuck was when it started to feel like, oh, he's just completely fried off
Yeah.
pills. And nobody, like, people like watching somebody who's like going through it. And like, you know, they like seeing somebody suffer and everything. But with him, as soon as it started to be like, oh, you're just like sitting there in interviews with your fucking face melting off. You're just like not even there. That's when people stopped paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.